welcome to You're So Fucking Enlightened. I'm Robbin Webb.
And I'm Jeanie Baker, and we are so fucking glad that you are here.
Yes, we are.
And if you're on the YouTubes watching us, please like and subscribe. That helps us to grow our community and to share more love with more souls on this planet. So thank you. Today we are about to get into the motherfucking heart. Yeah.
But first, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Actually, I am feeling good, feeling my visionary power, feeling flexible, feeling juicy. How about you?
Moist. We're talking about, because the weather here in Florida has been, we're near the beach, so it's been like super humid. And it's so humid that the floors have like this little like film on them.
They're moist.
They're moist floors. So the floors are moist. Sorry if y'all hate that word. Actually, it doesn't bother me at all.
I love that word.
I do too. It's great. Everything moist is good except maybe like
Your ass.
for your like your bathing suit, like
Yeah.
or your anyway, but yeah, so everything's good.
How are you?
I'm good. I didn't get enough sleep last night, so I'm gonna be trying to keep up today. I just went to bed late and got up early, so I don't know what that was about, but other than that, I feel really good. I'm happy. We have a storm coming in, like it's supposed to storm really bad today, so storms make me excited. So I know, I mean, as long as they're not like devastating and like, major catastrophic storms.
Obviously.
But like when there's like a good, strong thunderstorm coming in, y'all might be able to hear the wind. I don't know. That gets me a little bit excited, but yeah.
Same.
So like personally, my daughter's moving here on Thursday this week, and I'm really excited about that. She'll be starting college, and yeah. So for those that don't know, my daughter hasn't been away from her. I moved to Florida to purchase Solstice in 2022. She was a senior. No, she was a junior. It was like the end of her junior year. So she only had one more year of high school. We didn't want to move her to Florida. She'd been with the same kids her whole life. So, yeah, so she graduated high school. Somehow I talked her into moving to St. Pete. And so here we are. So
love it.
I'm really excited about that. So that's what's going on in my world.
So I love that we're going to talk about the heart, because also with your daughter moving here, right? It's all about opening the heart. It's all about the balance of giving and receiving. And so you're about to receive your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that alignment and that timing.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. So
friends, this is episode, I can't remember. It's the final episode of the 4-part series, Chakra series. So if you are just tuning in now, go back and watch. We went through all of that. We did like a kind of an overview of the chakras, and we did the lower chakras and the upper chakras, and now we're coming back and finishing with the heart chakra.
Yes. Yeah, and I also have it tattooed on my arm. I did this, maybe in 2012. And it was really like that. Tattoos for me are reminders of how to live my life. And also like I can look anywhere on my body and be like, oh, I know where I was physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And so when I put the heart chakra on, and you kind of walk right with your arms down, and your arm kind of leads you that way. And so I wanted to be like, let your heart lead you, Jeanie.
I love that.
It's always a constant reminder to allow myself to lead with my heart.
That's great, because I think we need to go into that a little bit, and how with the difference between leading with your heart and leading with your
thinking mind,
noggin.
Yes, for sure.
So and neither one is bad. So, and like if people say you shouldn't. We'll talk about it. We'll dig into it. Let's go. Yeah, bitches. I'm wearing green.
Yeah.
You're wearing green.
So the color, so we're going to talk about eat it, wear it, visualize it, live it. We're going to talk about color again, the sound, a mantra, talk about imbalances and balances and ways to open, activate, heal, and transform yourself from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wanted to, when Robbin and I were talking about doing the chakra series, I really wanted to end with the heart because the heart is the home.
Yeah.
So, we kind of know this in kind of theory, the way we kind of live out in the world. It's like always returning to love, return to your heart space, return to that sacred
Ideally.
space of your heart, right?
Ideally, yeah.
And so the chakras are just so in tune with that whole philosophy and theory of the heart is the home. All of the energy centers in and around us, they communicate in the home. So they all go back to the home and speak to one another and then move and open and, really.
It's like if your body is a home, the heart is the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because that's just where like everything comes back to that,
it's
right?
True.
Like,
it's got the island and the chairs for the people.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really important because forgiveness governs here.
Yeah.
Compassion governs here. Empathy governs here. And so it is all about the heart. And I'll go back to Carolyn Myss where she talks about aligning your heart and the mind, right? So where we get out of just thinking all the time, I think, and getting into your feelings. I feel. And so allowing yourself to align your heart and your mind where both your giving side and your receiving side are working together. Both your divine feminine and your divine masculine sides are working together. So you have that equilibrium, if you will, in harmony.
It's a yin yang.
It is a yin yang.
It is.
Yeah. And in our first episode with the chakra series, we also spoke about we are fucking different every day. And it is like there's no perfection. There is no perfect world. So we are always, if you choose a self-discovery journey, you are always in a constant evolution of change.
Yeah.
And so with that being said you're always mindful to visit each of your energy centers, maybe once a day, throughout the day, continuingly, and always return to the heart. Marianne Williamson shares Return to Love.
Yeah, Return to Love.
And there's a book, there's a workbook, if you don't know about her, definitely. And so at the end of the day, return to love. When you get out of your car, return to love. When you get out of the grocery store, return to love. When you hang up the phone, return to love.
Yeah.
When you go into a work meeting, return to love.
Right.
Always return to love.
Right.
And so we're talking about love as a consciousness versus love as an emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because it's funny. I love that because, we think of it as an emotion, and it certainly is an emotion.
For sure.
But living it and embodying love is a different experience. It's a more, I don't know, it's just like an all-encompassing experience.
Yeah,
so,
it's a consciousness for sure.
Yeah, it is a consciousness.
Yeah, and I'm, a few years ago, that theory came, I don't know if I was reading a book or what I was doing, but that came to me, like, love as a consciousness versus an emotion. And I was like, fuck yes. I love that because we romanticize love.
Yeah,
right?
But that's not love.
No.
That's chemicals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if we look at love as a consciousness and always return to that love consciousness, it's a fucking game changer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Eat it, wear it, visualize it. The color is green. So it's also nature.
Yeah.
It's our relationship with nature.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sound is yam. Y-A-M, yam.
Yes. And the mantra affirmation is I love. I love.
Because you can probably guess that one. It's like a given.
For sure. For sure.
So, yeah. So, we'll talk about it in depth, but what does it look like when your heart chakra is out of balance, or maybe when it's in balance? We'll start with that.
Yeah. So when our heart is in balance, we have equilibrium. We have the embodiment of giving and receiving. We are able to support ourselves, give to ourselves, and help and support others.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's stop there because some people don't really understand the concept of receiving.
Right. And so I want to start with giving first. That's
Okay.
why.
All right.
Because most people are huge givers.
Yes.
And there's an imbalance a lot of times. There used to be in my life as well,
Right.
where we're not giving to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That could be time.
Mm-hmm.
That for sure is energy.
Yeah.
And so it starts there.
Right. Okay.
Where we are giving to ourselves. We're
Right.
taking that time, self-care, self-love, fucking whatever it is.
Right.
We're giving ourselves that.
Right.
And then also we're able to then support and help others. And then that is one aspect of the equilibrium,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now let's bring in the receiving.
Yeah.
And the receiving is hard for a lot, especially of women. I
Yeah.
work with a lot of women. I am a woman. I remember the time in my life, Robbin, in 2009, where I received for the first time.
Mm.
My yoga teacher, she gave me homework. And because she told me, she's like, you're out of balance with your giving and receiving. And I was like, fuck that. I don't know how to receive, blah, 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 right?
Right. I get massages.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And she was like, the next time someone offers you to buy you a cup of coffee that gives you a compliment, just say thank you. And I was like, fine. Like, I can totally do that. And then I remember the opportunity shows itself as it always does, right? The invitation. And I have beautiful blue eyes since I was young, right? And someone told me that. And I went to give them a compliment back. And I remember hearing my teacher's voice just say, thank you, Jeanie.
Just say thank you.
And so I remember it was scary. And I was stuttering.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can't even say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It took me several times to get thank you out and not just compliment someone else.
Yeah.
That happened with someone buying, hey, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. No. Let me buy you a cup of coffee.
Right.
Versus like, fucking thank you.
Right.
Thank you. That's
right.
all you have to say.
Right. Right. And so, like, and I think that can, it's a couple of different reasons that we do this. And I'll just talk about it for everyone. One reason I think we do this is because we want people to like us. We want, instead of receiving that compliment, we say, oh, I'm just trying to keep up with your good looks, or you also have a beautiful face or outfit or whatever. And we think that is going to in turn make them feel like that they like us back, like they like us.
Right.
Because if we just say thank you, that might sound selfish, which is like, if you think about that for a minute,
we might have a perspective that it does.
well,
for
right,
sure.
that's what I mean. That's the perspective of it.
Yeah.
So which is like preposterous, because those people are saying that probably because they're coming from a very genuine place of meaning
And
that.
kindness.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like saying thank you, or you can say thank you and just say, well, I also love your shirt. If you genuinely do, you can say, I was just looking at, your shirt and but thank you for complimenting my shirt. But don't, like, just not being able to know the difference between accepting the compliment and then returning one, but versus just like automatically returning one and feeling almost embarrassed that someone has complimented you. That's one reason, because we want people to like us. But then the other reason is because we are just taught and modeled to that it's selfish to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And we should always have a giving heart and be giving without expecting and receiving. And when we do give, we should be giving that way. But the world works in the flow. And the more you give, the more you're going to receive, as long as you're open to it.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And I'll also add a couple things with that, because I think like it's a big bowl of why we were all taught this, is also the value we have for ourselves, and which is worthiness.
Yeah.
The worthiness attached to that. Like, do I feel worthy? Yeah. Right? Do I value who I am? Because when we work on that, that for me was a game changer, because then I started to be able to receive, because I took time for myself. I started to like myself and love myself, and move into nature, which is all about the heart.
That's so true. Like being worthy, feeling worthy of the compliment.
Yeah. And so that might be something to think about and to feel. is the next time someone gives you a compliment, before you compliment them back, say thank you.
And really feel it.
Yeah. Receive it. Breathe it in.
Yeah. Just say, someone noticed my outfit. I thought about this outfit today for a long time, and I put a lot of intention in pairing these colors together, and somebody noticed that effort.
Receive
feels
it.
good.
Yeah, exactly.
Feels good.
Yeah, I think a lot of things we do too is if someone apologizes to us and we say, no, you don't have to apologize. Or that's okay. Versus someone says, I'm sorry, and you say, thank you.
Yeah. Well,
and receive that.
It depends. Also, like, we can talk about how we over apologize for things too. Like, there are instances that you don't have to apologize for.
Right, but just in general.
if you genuinely did something wrong, or somebody wronged you, or something,
just like a true apology. When someone comes to you and be like, I'm sorry for whatever it is. A lot of times, a lot of people, because they're just in their giving part, they say, it's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Versus like, no, like it probably hurt your feelings. Yeah. So say thank you. Yeah. And receive it. Right. Yeah. It's a huge part. Yeah. It's also, so the heart also governs forgiveness. And so in general, in life, what I know to be true is we have to mirror what we want in the world. We have to be that energy that we want to mirror back to us. Yes. Right? And so in life, in general, when we're able to love ourselves, forgive ourselves, right, be with ourselves, we're able then to have that mirrored back to us.
Very much so.
Yeah, and forgiveness is a big one. Yeah. A lot of women I work with, it's like, well, what do I have to forgive myself for? Or what I have to forgive someone else for? It's like at the end of the day, when we know better, we do better. Yeah. And when we're sitting in that love consciousness and that higher perspective, that can open up healing aspects. Right. I never thought I would forgive my dad. Ever. But what I learned was I had to forgive myself. Because when I was young, I didn't have a voice that I do now. And I didn't have the emotional intelligence that I do now. So I had to forgive myself for that. And therefore, by doing that, changes my perspective, opens my heart more to have the capacity for more love consciousness and therefore lend forgiveness to people. Right. Fuck, man, it's good shit there. Yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about was where it is in our body. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
sorry we skipped that.
Yeah. So the heart, it's this big center. So in general, a lot of people just go to that physical heart. If you're looking and hearing us from the U.S., like we're taught the heart's here, and we've like the American flag, the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. So we're talking about heart center space. Yeah. And so between the two collarbones is where the throat starts. So if you just want to start going down from there, that whole chest area, and then right above your sternum. And so then you're wrapping all around. Yeah. So you're wrapping the entire upper back, you're wrapping the lungs, you're wrapping into the lymph nodes underneath your armpits, and you're into your thymus gland, you're into your immune system, and you're into your endocrine system. And so you can take a 2-finger tap. I love tapping. You can take your middle finger, pointer finger, either hand. There's like a thud, there's like a hood, kind of like a bone here in your chest that's up underneath that is your thymus gland, and you start to thump. You can actually hear it. Yeah. So that actually, that governs right there. Right. And so by doing that also boosts your immune system and strengthens your vital life energy force. Yeah. Which is part of what the heart does. Right.
And since it is in this general vicinity, it also extends into your arms and your hands.
Yeah. So think about that giving and receiving. So it is at equilibrium. Yeah. In our physical world, we have these beautiful symbols of giving and receiving. A lot of people shake hands, right, with the right hand. Yeah. That's the giving side of the self.
Their cultures will kiss, a little kiss on each side, 2 kisses.
Yeah. When I lived in Costa Rica, I loved that because I'm such like a physical lover. And the kissing was always there. My family's also Italian, so we've always been kissing, when I was young. Yeah. Yeah, the giving and receiving, that balance in general, the heart is what it's about. Yeah.
Okay. And so we'll also talk about, so we've talked about the giving and receiving. And that's like a healthy balance of being able to do that. And we all, I'm sure we can all work on that to some extent.
Always. And
Always.
And let's think about our shoulders, right? So our physical posture also lends to our emotional center, our energetic self, right? And so if we are caved in, right, we are closing ourselves.
Yeah.
There is, so I have now taken off like closing my arms because it just closes our hearts off. So a lot of people, you'll notice when they start to talk about something uncomfortable, the first thing they do is close their arms. So they start to close their heart off. And so you may do that. I used to do that. And so when I started becoming aware of my physical posture, right? So it used to happen a lot when people would approach me about Jesus and religion. Okay? Because I used to be super charged about that.
Yeah.
And when people would come up to me, I would just automatically do this. And when I started noticing that, I was like, okay, Jeanie, like you're closing yourself off. Like you have to lend this person the same compassion, the same empathy that you would do for yourself.
Right.
And then just allowing the physical posture to change is a game changer. And I'm also about simplicity. Keep life simple. It's complex out there in the world. Our brain tries to get really complicated. So I'm really about keeping shit simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I love that because for me, simple is best as well. So let's talk about, imbalances. Imbalances in the heart. And what I found is that when the heart chakra is imbalanced, pretty much the other ones are too.
Yeah, so what's a common theory is because the heart is the home, if you are imbalanced in your heart, we need to start with the physical world energy centers. We go back down into the earth. We go back into our feelings. We go back into our visionary power, balancing the ego, and also our personal power where worthiness lies. So we go back because in general, the everything moves up. It's like, so when you're focused on, grounding yourself, feeling safe, feeling your emotions, knowing your worthiness, everything moves in the heart. And then after that, you start living a life that's authentic. You start speaking your truth with kindness. Yeah. You start to trust your intuition. You start to feel, right? It is a beautiful flow of gradients.
Yeah.
And so in general, when you are out of balance in the heart, it is like, look and see, and you're giving and receiving. Look and see what your relationship is with your worthiness. Look and see, do you feel safe? Are
you still harboring resentment that you're not able to let go of and forgive?
Exactly.
For yourself and others.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about how, it is also related to the, like we were saying earlier about, my mind's blanking out because I was just thinking of the asana, the poses all right, I'll just switch the asana because that's where my mind went when you were talking about when you're hunched over.
Yeah. Or
when your hands are crossed. It's really just, and I think that a lot of times we're doing this because we're working on computers also, and we're working on phones and that sort of thing.
For sure.
And so I think that can affect it. So any yoga pose that is like heart and shoulder opening, even one of my favorite practices is to get a yoga block and put it between my shoulder blades, and also one behind my head is like a little pillow, and just let my arms fall. And basically your chest is just like facing the sky, and it's just a really chest opener. But cat-cow, where you're, kind of opening and closing your heart space, or anything like a bow pose where, you're kind of in a, or a camel, anywhere, where anything that's opening your heart and your chest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I've been having some issues with my thoracic spine over the last couple months. And I've really had to return to the heart because the thoracic spine is the upper back. It's that space between, behind the heart. Yeah. And so I've been having to do a lot of right? Physical
Right.
physical stretches
Yeah.
to get back into that heart center.
Yeah.
Also using affirmations and things like that too, and color therapy, but physically,
Yeah.
right? Allowing that posture.
Yeah.
And so also out of balance, heart chakra is when we're just in our thinking mind all the time.
That's what I wanted to come back to.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where we were like, where that balance between decisions with our mind and with our heart.
Yeah, it's where we are living in the thinking mind, which also means we're living in the logical world solely. And so a lot of us I know can relate to that. I used to be that person. And
Same.
and so women I work with, I also, this is a common denominator, a common thread. And so what we
It's not just women, it's a lot.
Oh, in general. I mean, I work specifically with women.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a common denominator across the board.
Yeah.
And for me, for sure, all the people walking on this planet, especially living, if you choose to live in modern society, it feeds that logical part. It feeds that thinking mind.
Mm-hmm.
So something we can do is return to I feel. So you start to gauge your emotions, because what happens is if you are solely living in your logical world and in your brain and in your thinking mind, is you are out of touch with your emotions.
Okay, but let's talk about what that might look like for someone, like a real life example. Like, let's say someone is trying to decide what they want to go to college for, or what they what job they want to.
I love the job part too.
Or what they or a partner that they're choosing.
Yeah. So So that decision making, whether it's
what
a
it
job,
look like if you're doing it with your logical mind versus your heart versus both.
Yes. So it would look like if you're solely living in that logical thinking world, whether you're choosing, work, partner, whatever it is, it looks like you're rationalizing everything.
Yeah.
So they look good on paper, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be good because it's going to support that, right? So we're in that rationalizing.
Right. This makes the most money.
Right.
That's the only thing driving your decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He or she looks good on paper, and I think most of their qualities I could work with.
Yeah.
Or
right.
Yeah.
Or my mom would really love her.
Right.
Or my dad would approve of him.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that is not what should be driving you.
No. And then also so let's swing the pendulum, okay?
Yep.
So let's swing the pendulum. So where if you're only living in your heart, okay, then you're more of everything's just gonna work out, and there's some flags over here, but I'm just gonna ignore them.
Yeah.
Because everything's just gonna work out. It's gonna be fine. So that's that pendulum swing.
Yeah, I don't need to have any sort of drive or any sort of motivation to further my education or to increase my technical skills, or I don't need to do any of that because everything always works out the way it should. And so I don't need to do anything in order to work on myself or for my own self-growth.
Right. So it's and we're giving a lot of, pendulum swings, but just to kind of give you an idea of that, right? And so if we kind of start to marry, start to merge, start to find that equilibrium of giving and receiving, intuition and logic, then we start to also ignite our passions. Yeah. Right. Ignite our love, ignite our creativity, ignite our self-worth. Right. We start to ignite all this. And this is what happens when we live balance in the heart, is because then we merge the heart and the mind. And so what that looks like is we flow. Yeah. So yes, this is just an example of how different our brains work. The things that you're saying make sense in your brain, but in my brain, I need to know what advice you would give someone to my brain does go logical a lot of the time. Right. And I think yours goes on the opposite side a lot of the time. Right. But I'm trying to come back to it because I don't fully understand that in a logical sense. So practically is but let me specify my question. If you were going to if someone was having trouble figuring out what it is they wanted to pursue, let's say a career. Yes. What would you advise them to do in order to connect the logical and the intuition and the heart? A few things.
Okay.
Is first write down everything that gets you excited.
Okay.
Also, to serve the logical brain, it's like, how much money do you need to live for your lifestyle?
Right.
Because this is all how it works.
Do you think the money is on the logical side only, or can that even be in the heart space?
So I also feel it's in the heart space.
Okay.
Because it also is, so this is a big one, get ready.
Okay.
It is also practicing the non-attachment of the money.
Okay.
So when we practice non-attachment of the money, we are living in the heart space. In general, when we are practicing non-attachment, because that thing doesn't define me, I don't have to have that thing in order to feel my worthiness or my value.
Right.
I'm living in the heart space.
Okay.
And so in practical world, it's you know, even like for the work, is what excites me, right?
Describe that too, because some people think money excites them.
Right. And so that might be true right now. And so this is going to be like, this is a longer road to really, right?
We're going deep.
Yeah. That's a longer road to really understand, because I used to be that girl. Like, I worked a corporate job. I made a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
And through my own self-discovery, I started learning that there's a flow to life if you listen. And I remember December 2008, I put myself in my kitchen and I said, universe, the money's got me. The money's got me. I'm not going to fucking quit because the money's got me. I need a push from you in order to get more into the flow and trusting of the world. I invited the invitation. The next day, I had gotten a nose piercing. And I went into work. My boss didn't see it. I was also a manager. And it took like 3 hours. She saw it. She completely went ballistic. It was like she took it personally, okay? And yelled at me. Just started to berate me in her office. Like, I was like sitting in the chair like, what in the actual fuck is going on? This is true.
Yeah.
She fucking storms out of the office.
Yeah.
I go back to my desk and I say it again. What the actual fuck is going on? And I've heard a voice since I was 3 years old talk to me. I've learned now to let that guide me in life.
Yeah.
That voice says, this is your push. And I said, motherfucker, it is. I wrote my resignation letter that day.
Yeah.
And that is the first time in my life that I started to understand there is a flow to life if we listen, not try to push life, flow into life, and to trust. And why? Why was I able to activate that courage in the moment? Because I started knowing that I'm worthy of my own time. I started practicing self-care and self-love. I started owning who I am, right? Slow, because Jeanie Baker, that was like 2008. This is 2024. She's more in her power today than she was then.
Sure.
And then in 10 more years, that's going to be more of that, right? But it is a slow, it's a slow process.
It's a slow process.
But when we give ourselves that time, it is magical what can show up. Because also at the end of the day, like, I believe God, universe, whatever you want to call something higher than ourselves in that energetic realm, is there's always invitations every single day.
Yeah, we just have, a lot of us are too wrapped up in our own minds, you know, and not really being present in the moment and not allowing for the space for those messages to come in.
Yeah. Or to not listen to them.
Yeah. Or to ignore them completely, thinking that, like, trying to rationalize with our mind that they're you know, not there or whatever. But so take time. I always say that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening, and you can use that as higher power, universal consciousness, whatever. You know, the universe. You know, praying is, you know, asking for what you want, or saying, you know, giving gratitude or that sort of thing. But meditation is listening to it. And so not, you know, taking a little bit of time, you know, when you're on your walk or your run, maybe don't listen to music for once, or don't watch TV. for, you know, the whole day or whatever, you know, just allow for some quiet time and quiet space for those things to come in. Because that's when they're going to come in.
Yeah,
we're really overstimulated, and our brains are wired to this, to always needing music, or to always needing background noise, or to always needing, and when you have that constant noise, it doesn't allow for messages for you to come in.
Yeah, and I don't think we're wired that way. I think like we have
society has
we have become
that's what I mean. Like our society has wired us that way, but no, we're not born that way. No, absolutely not. So
it's all about choice. Yeah. So that is what the heart space is about. It's about choice. Yeah. So also, you know, what is governed in there is our heart, our physical heart. Yeah. Right? Lungs. Mm-hmm. So anything out of balance, any lung disease, heart disease, is also, so my mom died from lung disease, and understanding like the journey, she died in 2002, understanding the journey of like the holistic way that I choose to live now, that, you know, my thoughts and my feelings affect my physical body, right? Mm-hmm. My mom had a lack of worthiness. It's a generational, it's a fucking generational pattern in my family, and I'm here to fucking break that shit, which I have. And it is the lack of worthiness. My mom died from lung disease. She's 5th generation that I know of in our family on that side to die from lung disease in their 50s or less. Mm-hmm. And looking back at all of them was a lack of worthiness, a lack of using their voice, a lack of self-love. And so this is where, if we can take a holistic approach, understanding that our thoughts, our feelings, our actions create our reality and also affect us physically, is a fucking game changer. Yeah.
So what would we do? What are some things that we can do to heal our heart chakra?
Yeah. And so we can fucking breathe. Mm. We can intentionally breathe. And if you want to bring the breath up, you know, from deep within the bottom of the belly and into the heart, you can do that. I recommend breathing in and out of your nose because it strengthens your vital life energy force and immune system. You can also give yourself, so there's a theory that this practice I'm about to share with you is one of the highest vibrational practices we can do for self-love, and that is placing both hands on the heart. So placing your right or left hand on the heart center, and then the opposite hand on top of that, and allowing yourself to breathe up into the heart, where you are physically feeling your chest rise into your hands. Because that's doing is giving you that balance, that equilibrium of giving and receiving. It's connecting both sides of the brain. It's connecting your divine masculine, which is the giving, which is the logical, which is the courage, which is the action, and your divine feminine energy, which is your receiving, which is your rest, which is your intuition, is connecting both. So every single day, that could be 1 minute, place your hands on your heart. I like to close my eyes and then breathe into it. Yeah, and she's so cute. And breathe into that space. You can do that. You can eat the color. So that color is green. So think about all the beautiful greens in the world. That's going to support the heart. And so what I love about like collards and kale and, you know, it's like Brussels sprouts. They all have veins, like arteries of the heart. And so I love, you know, like everything is connected. So anything that looks like the arteries and the veins, right? Because everything is affected in the heart. Anything green. We can wear the color green, and we can also visualize the color green. You can go out in nature and you can stare at a tree and breathe that into your heart. I love, love, love. And you can also talk about and feel love and kindness. So there's a lot of meditations out there. There is, I forgot her name offhand. I think it's Tara Brach, that she really speaks about love, loving kindness. And really,
it's also called a metta meditation, METTA.
Yeah, she's a big practicer of that. There is, I'm blanking on the book right now, Radical Acceptance. Yes, that book really talks about loving kindness. She practices that meditation. So if that's something that you want to learn about and start to understand your heart chakra a little bit more, I would definitely recommend that book.
Yeah. Also, journaling is a really big one that you can do because that journaling allows us to understand, not only release our thoughts and our feelings, it helps us to understand them because you go back and you read it and you're like, oh, you know, you have it all going up in your head, but when it's on paper, for a lot of us, and like including myself, when I look at it's like when you have you ever been like, oh, I just answered my own question? Like when you ask a question to somebody and then you are answering it at the same time. For me, that's kind of what like journaling is. Like I just answer my own question by like just writing it down.
Yeah, and my theory is because you're getting thoughts out on paper and you get into your body then. Yeah. Because energy is released out of the mind, and then it puts more energy into the body. Right.
Also, let's talk about how music affects the heart.
Sound.
Yeah. So the heart bowl actually is my favorite.
Same.
My favorite frequency.
Same.
I love it. But just music in general, when you hear a song that you love, it does not affect your logical mind. No. It is affecting you here.
And your emotions.
It is affecting you here. So music, I think, can help us kind of get back into that heart space sometimes. Also, massage can as well, just to help us get back into our body and connect with our physical body.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have some questions?
Oh,
the journaling prompts?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So questions that can point to imbalances related to the heart chakra. Do I have trouble finding meaning in my life? And I think, and this is why I kept coming back to that question. You can also tell that I have two older teenagers, young adults that are college age, and they're trying to figure that out right now. And so, like, I was just thinking a lot about how this is something that they struggle with. Well, I guess I can settle and do this because it makes a good amount of money, and I can get, go to my job and do this every day. Well, that's fine. Like, and there's
nothing, and that was me at that age.
But and there's nothing. Honestly, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that as long as it's not like a fucking like sucking the life out of you. Like if you're like, okay, this is fine, and then but you're still able to connect to your passions outside of work. I don't think your work has to be what you're most passionate about.
No, I think what happens is people get stuck.
Yeah.
And so when we get stuck, then that's where stagnant energy happens. And then when we become stagnant in our life, then our heart is closed.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to, make money in the world by your passions or your purpose of your soul, if you will. Because if you can live in both worlds, make money to provide for your family, and also connect to your creativity and your passions and your joys, right, consistently, that's a fucking great life.
Right, it is. Yeah. So, there's that one. And then this one is also really big. Is it hard for me to relate to others? Right. So it goes back to our empathetic body. And this is, oh God, I think about political politics a lot with this one, because we don't understand. Like we might be on one side of the political spectrum. Right now, the political spectrum is so divided. Anyway, it's not hard to see that division, but when we keep being pulled to one side, and allowing ourselves to go to one side, the less you're going to be able to relate to anyone that has a different view of you. And so I think it's important for us to, but we yet still expect for like shit to get done in the government. No, if you are part of it, if you are dividing and pulling way to that side, because that's how shit doesn't get done.
And do you know energetically why that is?
No.
So when so if we focus on the lower world, the physical world chakras, right? And then it moves up to the heart, right? And we're living in the heart, then automatically the throat starts to balance, which gives us also our truths, but also it gives us higher perspective. Yeah. It gives us the understanding that we're oneness because all the chakras start to balance. That is. So it's why it's so important to concentrate, especially in this society with your lower chakras into the heart, because everything else will balance.
Right.
And it'll give you that.
Yeah, because if you're really blocked everywhere else, there's no way that you're going to be able to come into that oneness or that universal consciousness, or you're going to be able to see. Like, that's why I don't participate in news anymore. Like, I do, like, of course I'm on social media, so you see things, but like, I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news. Sometimes I'll check a local news to see like if the weather coming up or whatever, but like, I don't, I just don't participate in it because it's not real news anymore. It's all something else. I don't know what the hell, but anyway, and not just politics, but just, am I able to just even trying to consider someone else's viewpoint, putting yourself in someone else's shoes is a big step.
Compassion, kindness, empathy, all governs here.
Yeah. And on the other end of the spectrum, another one of the question is, am I overly emotional?
Yes.
So there's something to be said when it's out of balance. Not only are you, not tapped into your emotions, you can also be only and overly tapped into your emotions and not able to see things from a logical perspective.
Because you fucking can't self-regulate.
Right.
That is what that's about. You're unable to self-regulate.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that is usually a result of trauma. So,
but also like we could rationalize a lot of reasons.
Yeah, but healing that trauma, or we didn't even talk about therapy. Like, that shit is fucking, there's some, therapy or receiving some sort of help from a professional or a healer in that. So
because that comes back to giving.
Mm-hmm.
So when we give to ourselves, right, we can also receive support.
Yeah.
Like, it is fucking about that equilibrium.
Yeah.
And I'm using the word equilibrium today versus balance.
Yeah.
Because balance is kind of thrown out everywhere. And at the end of the day, a lot of people attach balance to perfectionism, and that fucking doesn't exist. So it's why I'm choosing, I'm choosing my words really carefully.
Balance, it looks like this.
Always.
It's not like this.
Yeah.
Balance is just this, but it's not this, and it's not this, and it's not this, because that doesn't ever happen. It's just kind of riding it like this.
Yeah, and so are you finding the ride of that consistently?
Yeah.
Because just like the earth does rage. The earth does roar. So there are going to be times where I may rage and I may roar.
Right.
But what am I doing consistently?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And am I also finding that love and kindness?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, this is a big one for some people, and this is where I was talking about like the numbing out of, not being able to be alone with your thoughts. Do I dislike being alone with my feelings and thoughts? Well, if you don't sit with your feelings and thoughts, and that's not something that you are doing on a regular basis, chances are when you first start sitting alone with your feelings and thoughts, it's going to be fucking uncomfortable.
Oh, not like maybe. It's fucking will.
No, I didn't say maybe. I said it's going to be uncomfortable.
For sure.
And that is why we numb out on drugs and sex and TV and social media and fucking always having to be with friends, because our thoughts and our feelings, when we start to process them, are uncomfortable, because they're new, and anything that's new, we're a little bit scared of, and we're a little bit uncomfortable with. If a lot, just in general, we have a fear of the new and the unknown. And the unknown. So I think the idea is to come with it with a curious mind instead of a judging mind, because what we do is we judge our thoughts and our feelings as negative or positive, and instead be curious about the emotional reactions that you might be having, or the physical reactions that you might be having when you sit alone with your thoughts and feelings. True. So just don't judge them. Like, be like, I am not going to judge myself for feeling really pissed off when I think about this.
Yeah, and this is real, real world. Like,
I struggle with this still.
We judge every day. Like, I started taking out of my practice, like my life practice of like healthy, unhealthy, positive, negative, because it just it wasn't serving me anymore. Yeah. Right. And so also with that is the judgment of things, like just in general, like women judge their cycle, their moon cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's like, oh my God, like, oh, this, versus like, just be with it. Oh
Just
my,
notice it.
or, oh my gosh, like, I'm late for 2 days. Like, okay, well, your body is like, this is intuitive, beautiful mechanism that, you know, maybe it's just gonna be late for 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, if
you have cramps really bad, and instead of saying, you know, I mean, I still do this sometimes, but I try to be aware of it and change my language when I am like, okay, well, you know what that means? It means that I need to take a break, and I need to slow down, and I need to honor what my body's telling me today. A lot of us can't do that. I understand, but what do you have?
Can.
What do you have?
We can. It's a choice.
Well,
It
is a choice, but there are fucking single parents out there, single mothers that have to support their kids, and they have to go into fucking work.
That was my mom. That was my mom.
They have to, you know. So, but there are some things that you do have control over. Like, can I take a heating pad with me?
Can I tell my children I need 5 minutes?
Yeah. Can I take a hot bath at the end of the day?
Can I receive support from a friend to watch the kids?
Right.
Like it is always there's
for
always
what help can I ask
choice.
for?
There's always a choice.
Yes.
We may not see it.
Yeah.
Right, because also we may be closed off for that.
Right.
But there is always a choice.
So just being able to sit with your thoughts and your feelings, I think, is the hardest but most impactful and biggest step that you can make, because that's where you start to realize. That's why you get into the why is this happening? Why? And once you understand, like I have this thing, like once you understand the why of your behavior and your patterns, you've pretty much done the work of like changing them, because you don't, like, most of us aren't even aware of it. And once you become aware of it, then you start noticing when you do it, and then you can shift.
Right. Then you can make a choice.
Yeah. And so, and the last question is, am I always looking to others to fill my emotional needs, and do people disappoint me easily? So, I follow, and I'm not going to call anybody's name out, but there are a few people on social media that I follow, and I just noticed that, they put a lot of weight in their personal female friendships. And they get very, very, very upset when phone calls aren't returned, text messages aren't returned, people don't want to hang out with them. It's like things are taken very, very, very personally. And it's a lot. It's like, and the fact that I'm even bringing this up is that I see a lot of it. I see it's several women that are like this. So let's talk about how like that can be an imbalance in your heart chakra. What you're looking for something outside of yourself to make you happy, or to and also taking things very personally. Like, chances are they're just fucking busy.
Yeah.
Or they sense that goes back to the energy that you're putting out is the energy you're returning. So if you're in that energy of you're kind of creating a little bit of drama when you have these expectations from your friends, that's stirring something up. So what's going to come back to you?
Yeah.
The same kind of energy.
Yeah. And think about the communication. Mm-hmm. So the heart is the home.
Yeah.
It's the communication center. Mm-hmm. So that's also about, you know, when you're seeing that, is people taking it personally, is also the lack of communication. Yeah. Is also the lack of compassion. Is also the lack of empathy. Yeah.
And expectation too. Like, you know, they say expectation is the thief of joy. Like, you know, when something like that happens, the chances of it being about you is almost 0%. It's almost always about that person and what's going on in their life.
It is 100% about that.
So
100%.
Yeah.
Like if we just focus on our own shit, right? Focus on our own lives, focus on our own love, focus on our own relationships, focus on our own communication.
Then all that's going to come into your life.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you are showing up about the change you want to see in the world.
Right.
Take it back to Gandhi.
Yeah. Be the change you want to see. So if you want your emotional needs to be met, you have to meet your own emotional needs.
Bam! So also, yeah, mic drop. Yeah. So also that, I would like to, really kind of close with that sense of self.
Yeah.
Taking time for the self. Mm-hmm. Giving ourselves that energy, giving ourselves that love, because when receiving it and giving, right? So you're in that balance.
Yeah, when it's with yourself, it's kind of giving and riving at the same time.
100% is, because when you're in that space, then you're going to show up differently.
Yeah.
And so also give from the place of love consciousness versus giving from a place of expectation. Oh, I bought them a coffee yesterday, so I've got one up on them.
Yeah.
So they owe me a coffee.
Yeah.
Or
that's not the way giving works.
No.
Yeah.
Well, right. And
I mean, it does work, and it does work like that, but not when you have those expectations.
Yeah.
So.
And also that creates codependency, which is part of.
It's another podcast.
Exactly. It's another imbalance in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are only responsible. We can only be responsible for ourselves. It always comes back to ourselves. It has zero to do with anything outside of ourselves.
It's true. It's true. And when we focus on
it's a mirror,
our own discovery, our own work in the world, our own communication, because at the end of the day, like what I've learned from myself, my own journey, and also in my relationships, right? So something that has been over the past year for me, really seeing people for who they're showing up to be, right? Because if someone in your life is unable to, one, regulate their own emotions, if they are unable to meet their basic needs, if they're unable to find joy for themselves, they are not gonna fucking do it for you.
Right.
Because it is about, right, it goes back to what Robbin said, it's internal. So friends, focus on the internal, because your external will change.
100%. When you get the internal right, your external is right.
And this is everyday self-discovery. If it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a day, it's that you value yourself enough to take that time.
This is the way.
Return to the motherfucking heart.
Return to the heart. Return to love. Return to yourself.
And return to love as a consciousness.
And can you imagine if we all did that in the world? Like if everyone just cut it off, like what would happen if we just cut everything off and we sat and we were like forced to like sit in meditation and deal with like our own shit? Like the whole fucking world would be healed. There would be no more war. There would be no more mass shootings. There would be no more political upheaval. There would be, everything would be like
in flow.
Yeah. So it all starts in here.
It does, 100%. And so I'm a firm believer of do what you can.
Yeah.
Right. Do what you can.
Baby steps are steps.
Like baby steps are the way for me. Like I believe that, because what I know for sure is we're creating a lifestyle for ourselves. So small steps every day, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. So.
Thank y'all.
All right, what's going on? I guess by the time this drops, it will be about the end of February, beginning of March.
Yeah.
So
I have a March retreat. Actually at Robbin's place in Punta Gorda. Spring into your body. It's going to be focused on energy medicine, Chinese medicine, yoga, self-discovery, and healing. We're also going to focus on detoxing the liver for springtime. So definitely reach out. You can find me on Instagram at intuitivesoul_coaching retreats. And also my website, I am jeaniebaker.com. I also work with women one-on-one in coaching and healing, what I call embodiment programs, or really start to focus on what the fuck your needs are, how you can live in the body, how can you feel your feelings and feel safe, how can you find your own value, right? And how can you return to love? Like this is the authenticity fucking path.
Don't you also have a spot open for your Greece retreat, or is that sold out?
It is sold out.
Yes.
Yeah, baby. What's up?
I don't have anything coming up yet right now. Like by the time I do have something in a couple weeks, but that will be past. So we'll see what comes up.
Yeah,
in the
and reach
future.
out, comment below anything you want to hear about, questions that you have. We would love to start to answer some questions
Yeah.
on our podcast and anything related to spirituality.
Yeah.
And not taking this shit so fucking seriously.
Yeah.
That's right, baby.
I mean, it is serious, but you can also be fun.
Yeah, fuck, man, look at me. Look at Robbin.
It's the balance. It's serious. It's fun.
Yeah.
Serious. It's fun.
Lots of love.
All right.
Thank y'all. Ciao.